Hey everybody, it's Ian Alfield and I'm at Universal Studios' new Epic Universe at the Lowe's Stella Nova Hotel. This place is amazing. We're gonna check out the new lighting design. We're gonna have Hilary from Lux Veritas with us, who is the lighting designer on this project, go over everything in detail. So let's take a look and let's get lit. I am here with my friend, Hilary Wainer. Hi Hilary, how are you?
Hey Ian, it's good to see you.
She's with Lux Veritas Design based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Universal Epic just opened up. I think it opened up to the public today. So today we're going to talk about Stella Nova, which is super exciting. But before we get to that, let's kind of, give me a little background.
So like you mentioned, I'm Hilary Wainer. I am the president of Lux Veritas Design. I'm an architectural lighting designer. We specialize typically in high-end hospitality projects. So that's hotels, resorts, urban hotels, convention, restaurants. So it's actually very diverse within itself. I've been doing this for 25 years. I can't believe I'm saying that, but
yeah, right. There for you.
I started my company 13 years ago. I named it Lux Veritas Design, which means truth and light. I wanted to choose a name that wasn't just about me, because I think that design is about collaboration and about the team and everybody that makes up that team, and not just the one person that owns the company.
If you would you walk us through a typical day for you? Yeah, great.
Why do we need a lighting designer?
So our profession was born out of a need to marry the creative with the technical. So there was a need for somebody who cared as much about the aesthetic outcome, but also was sensitive to all of the technical requirements of lighting. So typically where lighting designers get involved is in like all of the front-facing parts of the job. So in the case of a hotel, since we're going to talk about hotels, it's going to be the lobbies, the restaurants, the guest room corridors, the rooms, all the parts that the public sees. So
all the fun stuff.
Yeah, all the fun stuff. The experience, the site lighting, the pool deck lighting. And like I said, most of the stuff that the public sees. And nowadays we even get the pleasure of working on parking garages.
Loads of fun on parking garages.
As a lighting designer, again, we like to think of ourselves as like a team member, and it's not like sometimes we'll have a client who's like, here's the lighting, pick out the fixtures. And I'll be, if that's what you need, you don't need a lighting designer. You can go to a sales agent, you can pick out the fixtures. I was like, let's back up and let's talk about your space. Let's talk about how you want it to feel. Let's talk about the architecture, the interiors, the finishes, and then let's talk about lighting. Envision some big, huge, custom decorative piece or a sculpture or something that has lighting in it. Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let me do the boring part, the laying out of the downlights and things like that. Because frequently, when you have architects and interior designers laying them out, they're going to put them, 6 feet on center. That's safe, whatever their rule of thumb was. And it doesn't matter whether the ceiling's 8 feet tall or 18 feet tall or 30 feet tall. It's not a criticism, because that's not what they do for a living. And if they've been taught to cover themselves, well, if I had just gone and picked out some lights, well, if they're 6 feet on center and our ceilings are 20 feet tall, well, I've done everybody a disservice, because that's not what I'm getting paid. That's not, in my mind, what I'm getting paid to do.
Budget is a huge part of our industry, right? It's a big part of lighting. It's a big part of architecture. It's a big part of everything. Mm-hmm. And I know that you are a key role in helping budget the entire lighting package too.
That's right. So where we add value, again, is we're going to put fixtures only where you need them. We're going to be sensitive to the aesthetics and also to the overall outcome of the project. I don't expect my clients to know everything about how light integrates or acts or interacts with surfaces, but that's why I want to talk to them about how they want it to feel and their special finishes and stuff, so that we can be sensitive to that. And then another thing that we do, at least that my company does, is we watchdog the budget all the way through. And it's in my vested interest to do so, because if I don't price the job, I don't know how much it costs. And they cost this much. I don't know whether it costs that much unless I priced it. And then I talk about, target budgets and how to get to where they want to be on bid day. But the other really important thing that we do is we specify the dimming system, all the zoning, how many presets. We set a sequence of operations, which means that's a fancy way of saying, like, do you want a time clock setting? What time do you want the lights to come on? What time do you want them to dim to this? And we walk them through all of that, and we go to the site, we aim all the light fixtures, and we set the time clocks and the presets so that it looks good. We typically come to the table 9 times out of 10, we're going to come to the table through an architect or an interior designer. And 9 times out of 10 we're contacting the architect. But everything's relationship based. You have to work directly with developers, architects, electrical engineers, interior designers, landscape architects. That's sort of our typical mix of people that we work directly with. We indirectly work with the rest of the infrastructure team. Like, oh, there's this big, huge duct in the way. What can we do? Because we can't put any lighting in this room. Throughout my career, I've worked in Europe, I've worked in Asia, I've worked in the Middle East. I've primarily been working in the US the last 10 years.
Great. So let's get into the project, which I'm excited about. I got to go out there with my daughter. Like I said, this is obviously the scope, right? These are both of the projects that you got to work on, Stella Nova and Terra Luna. They're kind of sister properties, right? Is that fair?
That's right. There's about 1,250 rooms total between the two of them.
Wow. Big scope. And we're walking into the lobby now. So it is a beautiful, beautiful space.
Yeah, we were given some really great architecture to work with. You walk in, you can kind of see these custom curved linear lines of light that were extremely difficult to coordinate. They did a nice job. Precise LED helped us out with those.
Great. Yeah, I know this project has some definite challenges. We talked about it earlier as far as the shape and some of the different materials. There's not a lot of 90-degree angles in this job, is there?
No, there's not. And this job was particularly challenging for us from a documentation standpoint because, when we bid the job, you don't necessarily know a lot about it. And we were contracted to do the drawings in 2D, and you can see that everything about this needs to be modeled in 3D. So fortunately, we were able to collaborate with the contractor who also had architects on staff to sort of carefully coordinate like all of these curved linear fixtures in the ceiling. Now we're headed into the retail space, and you can see we've got some nice linear light fixtures that are wall washing all of the apparel. Those are by Bold Lighting, and as well as integrated casework lighting. We've got these chalk lights, which, it makes it very flexible for when they switch out the merchandising.
And then we're back out into the lobby, right? So this is really the main focal point. I mean, the minute you walk in that door, it's a stunning space. There's just so much to look at.
Yeah, they really did a nice job, again, of sort of providing all of these little vignettes and places for you to look at. And they, like I said, they allowed us to do some really cool things. You can see in the ceiling those illuminated coves that actually have fixtures up inside that are providing all of the lighting. That was some standard light fixtures that were put into a custom enclosure by LF Illumination, and then we coordinated a GFRG custom trim that was ordered by the contractor to marry up with that. So it was a really fun project to do on the custom score, and architecturally, I think it really blends nicely with their theme.
Yeah, because it actually, the trim drops down below the ceiling, right? So it kind of looks like a crater.
That's right.
Yeah.
We've got sort of our orbs and our moons and our craters.
Right, so. and it provides general illumination for the space, which is nice, and it's a custom modified fixture.
Yeah, so if we'd gone dead custom with it, it would have cost twice as much. So we were able to sort of capitalize on some existing, like the technology part was not custom, just sort of putting it together was.
Yeah, there's a really nice view of some of those fixtures too. So yeah, I mean, this is a family hotel, right? So this is one of their premier family hotels for Epic Universe. So you can just see there's a lot of cool places to hang out. So I would imagine from a design standpoint, you really have to kind of sit and take it apart to see specifically what each space is being used for, who's going to be there. Like obviously this is a bar, right? Or this is, kind of a lounge area. So you kind of have a different vibe in there.
Yeah, but we have sort of these
these pods that, like I said, kind of break up the space and make it feel more intimate, even though it's ultimately sort of one big open space.
Sure. And that lumiere right there, that's a custom fixture that the interior designers worked on, right?
That's right. Like most decorative fixtures on hotels are envisioned by the interior designer. We may collaborate with them if they show us like an inspiration image and say, hey, have you worked with this custom manufacturer before? Because we think they would be a great fit. And then we will also work with them on things like color temperature and dimming so that the fixture actually dims and looks good. And yeah, we started working on this project in 2019 and it opened, within the last month. So technology's changed quite a bit. Like I said, we were contracted to do it in 2D CAD. We were doing Revit at the time, but it wasn't really the norm. And now it's sort of changed. This project was is a lot unique for a lot of reasons, but there are a lot of architectural fixtures and lighting moves architecturally that are things that are eye candy that people are looking at. And that's not usually our norm. Our norm is usually that the interior designer has their specialty decorative fixtures, and that's the star of the show. Not to say that that's not at all the case here.
Sure.
You can see even here's an example. This fixture on the wall, that's the Iguzzini trick fixture. Mm-hmm. And that is, something that we picked out and envisioned and specified, versus normally our job is to blend in and to be part of the experience, but not the highlight of the experience. Right now, we're walking around this hotel looking up because we're talking about the lighting design. But typically, you're walking around the place looking forward, or if you're looking up at a light fixture, again, it's because it's like a chandelier or something. But those linears on that textured wall, it feels very, very different in the space if that wall wasn't lit. That whole thing would be in shadow and it wouldn't really feel quite as inviting. And that linear wall, that linear fixture, you don't really know. You look at it now because we're looking up at it, but if you're in the space, you just see that the wall is lit. We had a lot of conversations about white light, color changing, colored light. Our inspiration here, and I keep talking about the inspiration, but we didn't really talk about it, but we're talking about, the universe, stars, galaxy, so that's sort of the theme or whatever. And you don't have a lot of color changing up in the sky, but you sure do see, there's a lot of blue looking down at Earth from space. And so I recommended the blue outside first because I also thought that the white would be too stark upon your arrival, and it would take away from, the star ceiling.
Cool. And there's some fun spaces too. There's a beautiful gym in there with a really nice pattern with suspended linears. Whose are those?
Those are Axis lighting. And this is a multi-purpose room, and
right. It's just purposeful, right? You put circular fixtures in there. You could easily put just straight up 2x4s, but you carried that theme throughout.
These are by Lumenworks, and they're like little moons. And this is the game room, and this is a focal point fixture. So the fiber optic corridor. So the fiber optics are by a company called Visual Lighting Technologies, and we went back and forth a lot on the layout of these. I don't remember how many points they are, but we literally drafted every single location so that this could get installed right, because it's a star field, but I'll give it away. So you can see like that it looks like we have our little black holes there. They're like that because there's access panels right there, and we weren't allowed to place anything there. And so we created these little star fields around them to make it look like a galaxy, and also hide the necessary junk. We've got the step lights in there that are actually providing emergency lighting. Now, this video was taken before we were able to set the dimming.
Again, there's that custom fixture that the interiors people picked out, which is a very strong focal point. When interiors people pick a lot of these fixtures out, you may not be aware of the actual light sources or the amount of light coming out of it, right? So you have to kind of design in a way that you still have ancillary light to accentuate the architecture.
Yeah, sometimes you have to use a little bit of common sense, because we don't get IES files. We can't calculate this big, huge thing, but it's this big, huge thing with light sources every 12 inches. So, we were like, we're pretty sure we're going to get enough light out of this from most of the ambient lighting. And then there are a few architectural fixtures tucked away up there because we actually have to give the engineer something to calculate for his emergency lighting as well. So
Yeah, for sure. And there's some of that blue that we talked about earlier. That's all LED point sources and then general illumination on that outside porte-cochere, right?
yeah, that's a company called iLED, which is distributed by Interlux Lighting here in the United States. iLED's Italian. And then the perimeter linear is a company based out of the US called Volkslight. They used to be one of the primary providers of cold cathode.
Right. Yeah, I like how the porte-cochere penetrates the building and it continues through. So it's definitely kind of a space theme. It's really nice. And then let's kind of work our way outside a little bit. Beautiful facade, right? Those are called performance and light, otherwise known as PIL. And it's like a little starburst fixture. It's kind of hard to see in the video. That blends in, but yeah, it does nice in that tile. That's for sure. Beautiful landscape lighting where there's, a mile of pathway there too. Those are Bega fixtures, right?
Those are Bega, that's right. What we try to do in these giant resort hotels is sort of create little vignettes and try to make it so it's nice to hang out at night. These hotels allow night swimming because in Florida, they allow you to do it on the surface of the water in the 5-foot perimeter. You have to have 1,000,000-foot candles. And then outside of that, you have to provide code required egress lighting on every square inch of the pool deck, which isn't that much. It's just a lot of it. And so again, we try to create some vignettes. You were just looking at those sort of stretched rings. That's a company called Structura. And
yeah, they're beautiful.
It's very simple and it's very elegant. But it's really an engineering masterpiece because this is a hurricane zone.
Right. So it's got to meet the wind loads just like you'd have on any pole. Really nice festoon, kind of talking about vignettes like you did before. There's a really neat kind of sand outdoor area where you can play different games and cornhole and stuff. It just kind of a space within a space, right? Even though you're outside.
Yeah, and here we needed overhead lighting because because if you're playing whatever it is.
And then this Galaxy bar, you have, curvilinear recessed exterior. You have these decorative pictures above the bar. I know this is kind of an engineering nightmare, but you did a beautiful job.
Yes. So this is, we did the whole design, coordinated the whole design, and then they hired a fiberglass manufacturer to do all the construction. And you can see there's like 1,000,000 seams and they have very little tolerance for moving them. So we had to try to coordinate as best we could. That went back and forth several times with that manufacturer.
And these are who?
These are Hess. And then those are Hepper.
Very cool. Yeah.
And in the handrails, that's Click.
Very, very nice. Very nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful project. You guys should be proud. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you giving me some time to go over this project. So thank you again. And we will be talking soon.
What's the matter with Ian? He's a bomb! You're a bomb, Ian!
Woo! Encore!